This isn't too much of a surprise to me once I get the background information. Because when I first heard it, I'm like, why is TikTok like bothering with censorship like this? It just doesn't make much sense. But once you actually like read the article and you understand something that I didn't previously understand, now this makes a lot of sense. Because to me, TikTok was just this pseudo, like, I guess you can call it social media that allows people to share, like, really short, like, music videos. It's actually very similar to Vines. I think it is, at least. But I didn't really get on that hype either, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But this right here, this explains, like, everything you probably need to know. Chinese owned video sharing app TikTok. I didn't realize beforehand that TikTok was a Chinese owned company. Now that I know that, it makes sense. I understand like why this is happening. But beforehand, I would have assumed TikTok was just like an American owned company. I had absolutely no idea. That actually does like lead me to another question because there was some sort of app that allowed you to make you look like an old person. It just that was the fun of it. It makes you look older and you can send it to friends. I think that was also Chinese owned, but it turned out they were like saving those pictures. They were like saving the pictures and storing the information, and that got a lot of like negative press. So I wonder if there's anything about TikTok doing the same thing. But Chinese-owned video sharing app TikTok censors material that's politically sensitive to the Chinese government. Yeah, this also goes into the whole like China censorship thing that we've talked about before. So China tends to have a lot of issues regarding censorship of matters they don't want their general public to know about. The Chinese internet is horribly censored. A lot of websites and stuff that are really well known in America cannot even be shown in China because they refuse to confer to these guidelines. Um, said it had viewed the site's moderation guidelines. Tiananmen Square protests, Tibetan independence, and a religious group, Falun Gong, are among banned or restricted content, it claimed. Um, Parent firm ByteDance? I don't know. So the Guardian had seen old guidelines which have now been phased out. The findings come amid complaints that the protests in Hong Kong are also being censored for political reasons. Yeah, that's not really a surprise that the Chinese government is censoring the protests in Hong Kong and what's going on there. Um, Pretty much all, I think these were like four topics here. Of course, these are being censored by the Chinese government. This isn't like really a surprising thing. I was just surprised mostly that it's even like being done on TikTok. I wonder too. I wonder if this is something the company is just doing. Like there wasn't anything that sparked this, or I wonder if there was a reason. So I don't know. Maybe the company did it just because the Chinese government asked them, or I wonder if there were actually like people or like a user that was sharing information about these restricted contents beforehand, and this is kind of the company's solution to that. Um, yeah, I don't know what the reason is, but that's probably really important to this case also. Newspaper said the guidelines for moderation cover a wide range of content, some of which is marked as an outright violation, deleted from the site. Another policy marks content as visible to self, which means it can remain up, but its distribution to others is limited. Guidelines covering China and a section about hate speech and religion are in a section about hate speech and religion, according to the Guardian. So that's actually another interesting thing because this isn't just talking about like those four like banned restricted content that we kind of expect China to like not be very happy about in the first place. Um, yeah, so anything covering China in general seems to be restricted. It's actually really interesting too that it's automatically considered like hate speech and religion. I would consider absolutely ridiculous if like criticism of America on the internet counted as hate speech or religion, which would be even more ridiculous. Um, I guess that's one of those like the really important part about America is that we can actually criticize our government. In China, they don't exactly like that. But yeah, one of the benefits to well, I would say benefits of America, but in all seriousness, I think most world governments allow you to criticize them. I think that's actually like really important too. Criticism of China's socialist system comes under a general ban of criticism towards the policies and social rules of any country. Ban covering the distortion of local or other countries' history includes examples of the Tiananmen Square quote unquote incident. A ban on religious conflicts includes mentions of Tibet and Taiwan alongside inciting the independence of Northern Ireland. Posts promoting Falun Gong, which is a banned group in China, are marked as an outright violation, while mentions of Tibetan independence, Taiwan's relations to China, and Tiananmen Square are marked as visible to self. I wonder if the visible to self thing is a way to like lower the controversy on this. So because that way it's published and people see it's been published, but they don't try to like re-upload it constantly. Right. If I try to like bring something to YouTube and I could clearly see it's not on like my channel, I would try to re-upload it again. But with this, maybe they're like visible to self. That way, it's still on your website. It's on my channel, but it just can't be shared anywhere else. And I don't think or like bother to share it. It also kind of, I guess, like eases the blow of what's going on. Users are not told whether the post has been limited because the content is deemed sensitive or because it is not seen as compelling enough to go viral. In response to the findings, ByteDance said the Guardian had seen guidelines which had been phased out in May. In TikTok's early days, we took a blunt approach to minimizing conflict on the platform, and our moderation guidelines allowed penalties to be given for things like content being promoted, conflicts such as religious, sex, or ethnic groups spanning a number of different regions around the world. As TikTok started taking off in new markets, we recognized that this was not the correct approach and began working to empower local teams which have nuanced understanding of each market. As we've grown, we've implemented this localized approach across everything from product to team to policy development. I wonder at what point they're talking about TikTok taking off in new markets. So was TikTok like really popular in China before it like started like or was even brought to America? Because I once again I thought it was just an American company. I didn't realize there was like any controversy or really anything to this. The old guidelines in question are outdated and no longer in use. Today we use localized approaches, including local moderators, local content and moderation policies, and local refinement of global policies. We've also been consulting with a number of third-party advisors, but we understand that more needs to be done. It's also looking to create an independent committee of industry organizations and experts to help the firm refine and assess its policies and implementation. So TikTok is trying to create an independent committee of various things in like various related industries to set up policies. That's pretty interesting. I wonder how that would go over in America. Um, about like if Facebook, Google Plus, Twitter, YouTube, and them all like developed an independent committee of industry organizations just to set guidelines. I don't know. That doesn't sound like something that's necessary. I wonder that might be worth bringing up if anybody has any like really strong opinions about it. TikTok was launched in China in 2016 under the name Douyin and quickly grew to 100 million users. 2017, ByteDance purchased Musical.ly, another short video music app, which added 30 million more users. As of the beginning of the year, TikTok has half a billion active users. Really? 40% of which were outside China. Oh, so I guess TikTok is like extremely popular in China. I had absolutely no idea of this. But clearly, like, I'm pretty focused on Twitch and YouTube content. I'm not gonna bother trying to like get popular on TikTok. That just sounds like a waste of my time. Videos created on the app are typically no longer 15 seconds and are popular in part because they allow people to add clever movie studio style effects. Oh, so yeah, this is just a different type of social media. Most of this article isn't that surprising once you realize that TikTok is Chinese owned, because then of course they're going to do everything else as far as censorship. I guess the really big question here is the independent committee. I guess like I personally am a little bit neutral as to whether that's like a good idea or not, or what's going on.